Assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Get ready to supersize it, my friends, because it's time to take a look at another fast food-sized episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. It's very fitting that this is a fast food themed episode of the series because it eats like a fast food meal. It's effectively filler at the end of the day, but that doesn't necessarily make it a terrible episode of the series, although it definitely feels all the more fillerish when it involves Team 15, which are known for their standalone episodes. Not to mention that Team 15, at least at this point in the storyline, is officially comprised of entirely filler-esque characters. While they might be canon at the end of the day, they were characters who were made exclusively for the Boruto anime series. Of course, I'm speaking about Team 15's Wasabi and Namida, and eventually that third team member was replaced by none other than Tsubaki Kurogane, who is a samurai from the Land of Iron, a character who was introduced only a dozen or so episodes ago, and here she is in another episode starring her, and I have to be perfectly honest, I actually kind of like her character. In fact, I love any concept of the samurai actually like playing a role in the Naruto story because I always felt that they were glossed over a little bit in their formal introduction of the series. I mean, when you think of the samurai in the Naruto series, most of the time you think about Mifune, and that's because he was the most important samurai, but the entire concept of there being this sort of militarized samurai force in this world of shinobi has always been kind of interesting to me, and Tsubaki in a way is sort of like an extension of that, how she's so similar yet so foreign to all of her fellow friends and colleagues in Konoha Village. And this is another episode which exclusively focuses on her as she continues to butt heads with her other two teammates and compete with the other young ninja of Konoha Village. So this is a pretty standard episode right here, which has a very standard message at the end of the day, which is basically it takes all different types of people to bring out the inner strengths of everyone. You need variety. It's the spice of life. And a lot of this is told through this ridiculous lesson from Boruto, where he basically equates eating a fast food hamburger meal deal to working with your friends in an appropriate way. But before we get to that, let's actually talk about the overall story of this episode, which basically was just Team 15 having a competition with Iwabe, Denki, and Metal Lee's team to basically see who can be the best, who can compete the most missions, and who can have the best results from that. And for some odd reason, Konoha Village is just under constant attack from the stupidest bandits that you've ever seen. I mean, there are so many dumb bandit characters in Naruto that at this point, it's almost getting infuriating seeing how many are able to get into the village and somehow escape. Remember, this is a village that's really tough to get into, but these bandits always manage to find their way in and cause all types of trouble, and they always end up running away. And basically what ends up happening here is that Denki's team ends up capturing the leader of these bandits, and throughout the course of the episode, we get to learn that this bandit's brother and all of his other goons have returned to try and get revenge against Denki and his team, and eventually Tsubaki and her team decide to come in and save the day. And throughout most of the episode, they're just not working well together at all. They're constantly butting heads. They're oil and water. Things just are not mixing well for these people. They're all very single-minded and they're in a constant competition with one another, which I have to admit is played for laughs. It comes to that pivotal scene, however, when Tsubaki is hanging out at Hamburger, where she's eating her favorite food, which are french fries. She's not even having the soda or the hamburger or anything, and that's when Boruto decides to sit down with her and say, hey, you gotta eat all these things together. All together, they work so well, and when you eat them all at the same time, you can really see the strengths of all these different things when they come together. It's all a metaphor for her working with her team, and I have to admit, it's kind of cute, if only for the fact that Tsubaki is such a striking-looking character. Maybe it's her massive eyebrows or her piercing pink eyes, but it's really funny seeing her like see the amazingness of what happens when you eat a french fry and a hamburger. That's the type of storytelling we're getting in the future of the Naruto-verse, so get really excited for that stuff, guys. Although it eventually does get to a scene where she teams up with Denki and his team and getting to see how well they work together. Then we have Wasabi and Namida using their signature techniques to stop the bandits, and Tsubaki doing one of her signature techniques, the big snowstorm attack, which we saw in her introduction. And here it's practically the same thing, except that it's stylized a little little bit more, and I have to admit, it actually does look kind of badass when she pulls off the technique. The thing is, though, it drains a lot of her chakra, and that's basically the end of the episode. She learns to work better with her team, blah, blah, blah. What's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? Like I said, my biggest gripe with the episode is not the characters, it's the lame villains they always introduce in these side stories, these bandits, which are just absolutely never ending. Is someone cloning these things? Why do they keep popping up from out of nowhere, and why are they so weak and stupid, and they always have to pick on the youngest kids of Konoha Village? Maybe that's what these kids here are for, is just to deal with the weak sauce, and that's exactly what these guys are. This episode basically just served to remind us that yes, Tsubaki does exist, and she's not going anywhere. Yes, I like many people, I kind of preferred Sumire Kake because she was just a way more interesting character the way she was developed at the very beginning of the Boruto anime series, but when she left, they had to introduce this brand new character, and I still like Tsubaki, if only for the fact that she's very different than some of the other previous characters that we've seen from the series. Just her being a samurai is kind of interesting in and of itself. Just getting to see sort of the culture clash between these different groups actually happen. It was kind of interesting in her introduction, and it's basically more of the same here. It's a wholly inoffensive episode at the end of the day, but again, it's one of those classic sort of fillerish episodes that you can basically skip and wait for the main story, but it really depends on how much you like these characters. So if you do like them, I highly recommend checking it out. Otherwise, this is a purely average episode of the series, which does occasionally have some really nice imagery in it, and some of the action is actually kind of solid. But at the end of the day, it's exactly what you would expect from filler from the series. It's cheap fast food, just like the message of the episode, but still enjoyable if you like all these people. But maybe your opinion differs. Maybe you loved this episode. Maybe you absolutely hated it. Well, it's time to sound off in the comment section below and tell me what you thought about this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. What do you think about the character of Tsubaki? Do you think she's just a needless filler character who is there to fill a slot? Or do you find something kind of interesting about her and hope to see more of her stories in the future? What about the other members of Team 15? I mean, Namida and Wasabi have come a long way from being background characters and have almost become pure staples of the Naruto-verse at this point. And what do you hope to see from the future of the series? Let's talk about that and everything else in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Take your shuriken, take your samurai sword, and slice that like button. Make sure to hit it. It helps out these videos tremendously. But if you want to go the extra mile in supporting this channel, please check out my Patreon in the description box below. Any and all donations will be accepted, and remember, a little bit goes a long way, and it could lead to an anime review of your choice, so make sure to check that out. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.